Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om and good evening once again. Now today is the session on the on 15th chapter. So I had, if you remember, I had mentioned that after the 15th chapter discussion we will have a round of queries, maybe some suggestions, maybe some improvements, maybe some complaints, whatever they are. We will try to I'll try to receive your points and then we will deal with those later. This is what I had mentioned with respect to the, said after the 15th chapter. So today we are going to deal with 15th chapter. But before we do that, let us understand who is the perfect person. Like for example, we are all dealing with various things in the world. We are all working in whatever fields we are working. And we always seem to look at somebody, he is perfect, she is perfect. So who is this perfect person? Who is the Sarva Uttama? All perfection in all qualities, Uttama. So in a group of people only we can give such an example, isn't it? In a group of people, or maybe in my known circle of people, I will talk in terms of who is the Uttama, Sarvottama out of that, who is the most perfect out of that. So what does a group imply? Group implies that there is some variety, because there are different kinds of people in a group. So group implies variety. In a variety, there is a unique perfectness in someone. In a variety of qualities about some people around us, there is a unique perfectness in someone. Wo kaun hai? So, in life, what should be my effort? Should my effort be to gain perfection, or should I seek excellence? We all often hear this phrase that don't run after success, but run after excellence. So should we run after perfection? One example that comes to my mind is this movie Three Idiots, where he says, रणछोड़ दास ने कहा था कि बेटा कामयाबी के पीछे मत भागना, एक्सेलेंस के पीछे भागना, कामयाबी अपने आप झक मार के पीछे आएगी. So for example, singing. Now if we are practicing singing, what should we see? We seek perfection, like every note should come so perfectly like the original song has come in, or that we should seek excellence in the way we perform, because our entire idea is to reach the heart of the audience. Is that should that be the thinking? So in our earlier sessions we learnt about Prakriti. Prakriti meaning the world of matter, and we also learnt about Purusha, the spirit which enlivens that matter. So when the Prakriti and Purusha, they come together, the conjoined world is my world of my own creation. So the matter vestures which are in me is created by the conjoined outcome of the matter in me as well as the spirit in me. So I work with my mind and intellect, and my mind and intellect is the performing apparatus in the body which makes my body function. So my body works on the basis of the dictates of my mind and intellect, and the qualities, which means the gunas in me from my past imprints, from my past tendencies, from my past vasanas, they determine the quality of my action. So my field of action at the moment, if my field of action, if I were to take, my field of action is what I am talking to you now. That is my field of action. Now later in the evening after 6 I will go for my workshop in singing. So my field of action will become teaching the students there about singing. So my field of action will change. The nanoseconds between the thoughts as they occur in my mind, which is basically born out of my intellectual absorption in the past. I have developed an ability. So the nanoseconds between the thoughts as they occur in my mind, their analysis in my intellect, and my action, like from my intellectual ability to articulate what I want to say. So this combination is the one which is coming through in the form of my conversation. But the light which illumines my intellect is a light which is beyond the intellect itself, because the intellect is also illumined by something. That light is beyond my intellect. So that Purusha, that light, is the same in me, is the same in you, and is the same in everyone. So when we learn something totally new like this, something totally different, we want to apply that to our life. Like for example, we have spent 32 sessions in understanding something. We want to apply that to our life with our intellect, which we through which we grasp certain thoughts. Now, how is it that that is going to help me change my qualitative imprints, so that my Prakriti, the way nature, the way my matter works in the world, changes, so that I become happier and I sort of permeate happiness around me. And that is also enlivened by my Purusha alone. So this is what we are going to be understanding now in this today evening. So I am going to play now verse 1 to 10 of chapter 15, and we will take it forward from there. Better now?
Panchadashodhyayah Purushottama-yogah Shri Bhagavanuvacha Urdhva-moola-madah shakhamashvatham prahuravyayam Chandamsi yasya parnani yastam veda savedavid Adhaschordhvam prasudastasya shakha Guna-pravriddha vishaya-pravalaha Adhascha moolanyanu-santatani Karma-anubandhini manushya-loke Na-roopamasyeha tathopalabhyate Nanto na-chadirna cha sampratishta Ashvatthaменam suvirudha-moolam Asanga-shastrena drudhena chitva Tatah padam tat-parimargitavyam Yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyaha Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye Yatah pravrittih prasuta purani Nirmana moha-jita sanga-dosha Adhyatma-nitya vinivritta-kamaha Dvandvair-vimuktaः sukha-dukkha-sangair Gacchantya-moodah padam-avyayam tat Na tad-bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavagah Yad-gatva na-nivartante tad-dhama-paramam mama Mamaivamsho jeevaloke jeevabhutah sanatanah Manah shashtani indriyani prakritisthani kashyati Shariram yadavapnoti yachapyutkramadishvarah Gृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वाशयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितम् विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः.
What is ego? What is my ego? What is your ego? The ego is nothing but the supreme principle, the life energy which is in all of us, which is expressing through my body, mind and intellect, colored by my imprints, colored by my tendencies, through my apparatus. So your ego is expressing the same divine principle, is expressing through your body, mind apparatus, through your own past imprints, through your own tendencies. So that is your body, mind and intellect is governed by the tendencies, by the imprints that you have stored from the past. So when you remove these imprints, which are in the apparatus, the imprints are in the apparatus, the mind and intellect. So when you remove these imprints from that apparatus, the divine self which is expressing through me gets revealed to me. How do you remove it? So the person who's working in the world, let us take for example me with the name Suresh, is nothing but the same electricity principle which is running through you also, which is running through me also, and which is running through everyone else. That is expressing through my apparatus, which is called my body, my mind, my intellect, and which is colored by the imprints of what are my past tendencies, what are my past imprints, which I have stored, on the basis of which I am acting, I am thinking, I am emoting. So when I remove these, what gets revealed to me is that Purushottama who is inside me. That is what we will try to understand now. So even the total mind and the total intellect of everyone in the largest field. For example, you have a mind, you have an intellect, I have a mind, I have an intellect. Like that, everybody else has got their mind and intellect. The total mind and the total intellect of everyone in the world is the largest field of the Lord which is in action. You work with your mind and intellect, I work with my mind and intellect. When I look at the entire universe of all those minds and intellect, that total mind and total intellect is the Lord's largest field in action. Now each of us borrows from that totality. Whatever is the imprints that I have, whatever is it that you have, we borrow from that totality. And we live our small little life in our small little world of our small and little choices. This is our life. What is the source? What is the seed? The seed is the divine principle, the Lord in us, that divine energy in us. That is the seed, and He alone is that. So when I look at it, the song that comes to my mind is again, Tu है वही दिल ने जिसे अपना कहा, तू है जहाँ मैं हूँ वहाँ, अब तो ये जीना तेरे बिन है सजा, मिल जाए इस तरह दो लहरें जिस तरह, अब ना हो ना जुदा ये वादा रहा. So like how two waves meet, they arise from the same ocean, they merge, they perform whatever they are performing, come and crash into the shore, get back into the ocean. Like that, each of us are coming from that same source. We clash, we meet, we perform together, we come, we go back into that ocean itself. This is the principle which is working in all of us. So that source which is from all of us, it doesn't need any intellectual logic to prove itself, because that is the source. The ocean doesn't need any proof of itself. That is the source. The waves are the ones which are rising to prove that I am also there. The ocean doesn't need that. So only the one who has understood the reality, this reality, only that person who has understood this, by using the tool in all of us, which is called our intellect. We have used that as a tool. Mind you, the intellect is also a matter, but it is a tool that we have to use, like how we use the body. It is a tool that we use, and we have climbed the limitations of the intellect, because that which, as I said, if you remove these entire imprints, tendencies, vasanas from the apparatus, what gets revealed is the one which is naked, and that is the naked truth and truth alone. So the limitations are created by whatever imprints that we are adding to that. So once you have climbed the limitations of that intellect, only then can we recognize that highest principle which is operating within all of us. And it can be proven only by self-experience. Just a second. Somebody has sent me a message saying voice is not clear. Is that true? Are all of you able to hear me clearly?
It's clear, Suresh.
Okay. So it can be proven only by self-experience. My experience will be my experience. Your experience will be your experience. So each of us have to understand this through our own self-experience. I can give you the example of what my experience was with that Vipassana meditation course. Now what that Vipassana experience is that you are meant to sit quietly without moving your bodily parts and focus on a unitary point within your body, which is the space between your nose edge and the upper lip. This is where your entire breath is coming. Now when you focus here in Vipassana, what happens is, this is from there you start focusing into various other parts of the body. That is a deeper part of it. But having done that, what you really do is your mind becomes single pointed. it becomes single pointed. But when you are trying to remain single pointed, suddenly your eyes are closed, you're sitting in meditation, your eyes are closed, suddenly you find that somebody is cooking something nearby and you think, oh, aaj kya hai, kanda sambar bana raha baju ka ghar mein. Mind has traveled. Or suddenly you listen to a music, oh, is that Mohammed Rafi? Oh, no, it is Kishore Kumar. Mind travels through any experience that we are receiving from external sources. So I gave you this example last time. We are walking along the road, suddenly there is a temple, and out of reverence to God, you stand there, remove your chappal and do like this to the God. Your mind is not there. Your mind is on whatever work you are going towards. But suddenly you saw the temple and you say that, oh, I revere God. You remove your chappal and you do like this. That is not what you want to want. Where is the mind at that point of time when you are meant to be in prayer? The mind is not there at all. So, take another example. How do you expand the canvas of a painting? Like, for example, there is a painting. Let's say the size of the painting is 12 inches by 6 inches or 9 inches, whatever it is. That is the size of the canvas. Now, that is limited by the size of that piece of canvas. How do you expand the size of the canvas? So, let us say that canvas is not 12 inches by 9 inches. Let us say that canvas is maybe 4 feet by 3 feet. Now, can you visualize every aspect of a painting on that big canvas? Small, 12 inches by 9 inches? Probably yes. What if it is by, 4 feet by 3 feet? Can you visualize everything which is there on the canvas? May not be possible. I want you to take back to a movie, Tare Zameen Par. In that small boy had done one painting. If those of you who watched it will remember that how army Jawans are going from under the tunnel. So there is a ground, and from under the ground these Jawans are traveling to attack the enemy. And in the entire first part of the page, this is what is there. And you turn the page, from there he brings out those people from coming under the tunnel, goes over ground, and they kill the enemy. That is the visualization of a larger canvas. So an expansion of a vision is possible only when the mind and intellect drops its limitation and pays attention to the source. That boy was able to do it. He dropped the limitations of what he could think and visualize something beyond that. So then you go to the source. What is the source? That secrecy is the source, and from secrecy, what is the objective? To achieve success. So like that, you are able to reach that. So only when we are in a position to drop this limitation of the mind and intellect, that vision suddenly changes. Now, I am talking to you. I have been talking to you now for 32 sessions, 33rd session, going on. How can I hold your attention? I can hold your attention by tickling the curiosity of your intellect to know something that the intellect does not know. I did not say you do not know. The intellect does not know. So I should be in a position to tickle the curiosity of your intellect to know something which it does not know. Like, for example, how to sing a complicated song. A complicated song is there. How do I tell you, if I keep boasting about how I sang that song, oh, very complicated song, I sang that song, 20 people applauded, 200 people applauded, 2000 people applauded, I got 2k likes, whatever I like, but that is not going to interest you. But if I can tickle, I must tickle your interest actually by helping you to sing it. If I start doing that, your curiosity that whether I can do it will be tickled, and you will start getting interested in knowing it. Maybe you will catch it, maybe you will not catch it. But I can invite your attention to that song, but by tickling your interest in singing that song. So similarly, when the intellect realizes that I can become sharper, the intellect can become sharper, it becomes attentive to the subject that we are discussing. So if you look at the opening part of chapter 15 itself, it starts with a simile. And what is a simile? The simile is that the tree of life has got its roots above and branches below. Immediately when you read it, you think, "Are ye pagal hai kya?" I mean, Krishna was mad or what? That he's putting up something like this. That is the way you will think, isn't it? Because our understanding of a tree is that a tree is the one which is got roots down and branches above. So the moment you hear something like that which will tickle your intellect, we pay attention. Like for example, you find some very crazy people. I mean, sometimes, पागल है क्या यार? सटक गया क्या उसका दिमाग? And we pay attention to them. To know how pagal they are, we pay attention to them. And then from there, it creates our sense of gossip, how we can talk about them, how we can ridicule them. We all know that we are all slightly touched here. थोड़ा अपना सबका सटकेला ही है, no doubt about it. We are all slightly crazy. But somebody who's full madcap, वो तो rare है. This is like a full madcap. वो तो उसका तो कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. So we want to understand this entire chapter 15 by the opening simile that he brought about. I will share a slide with you. I'll share a slide with you. Now this is the people tree that we know, Ashwatha tree that we know, whatever it is. Now this is the Ashwatha tree that is given as an example there in that simile. Now this is a hypothetical tree. Let us not look at that simile itself as something real. It is a hypothetical tree, and we will need to understand from this example what we are talking about. Now this has got, as I said, the roots on top and the branches below. Why is it spoken about? Shwata means that which is permanent. Ashwata, that which means it is ephemeral, changing. It is never permanent. So when we look at this entire world of creation, it is impermanent, isn't it? It's constantly changing. Sorry. The world of plurality that we are experiencing, the world that we know, is always here. It's almost like, like the tree, it is always there. But it is always changing. There are constant changes that are happening to our own world. Now, the world in which you are living is not the same world as in which I am living. Because I have my set of people, I have my set of choices, I have my set of experiences. This is my world. Your world is different because your choices are different, the kind of people you associate with are different, the work you do is different. So there is a small world for each of us, and that world is constantly changing. Although the world itself is there, but that world is constantly changing. And the leaves in this tree are the knowledge that this tree derives. I mean, we derive. For example, if we are in it's our tree of our life, isn't it? So these leaves are the knowledge that we derive from our experiences in the world. So the roots above and the branches below. The paradox as it is, the leaves are the ones which help the root to suck the tree sap. This is what it is. So the leaves of knowledge are needed for the tree to get nourished. That is when the exchange of the sap and the nourishment of the tree itself is happening. So it is important for us to bring this knowledge within us so that the tree of our life becomes better nourished and it grows into a wise, useful asset for us and those around us. And another way of looking at it is, let us say in a company, in a country, in our society, there are higher positions and there are higher people who are needed for the lower ones to survive. Like for example, there is a ruler of the country, he is required for the country to flourish economically, security wise, etc. There is a leader in a company, he is needed for the company to flourish and grow, etc. So like that, there are people in higher positions, they are needed for the ones lower to survive. So these higher ones which are nobler is basically the crown which provides splendor to the leaves of our own knowledge. So this tree of life basically represents that kind of a thought. So I'll take this thought a little forward. Now, majority of our thoughts, if you look at it, they are all running away from higher thoughts. If you look at majority of our thoughts, अभी मेरे को कॉफी पीना है, अभी मेरे को खाना खाना है, अभी मेरे को नाचने जाना है, अभी मेरे को गाना गाना है. Our thoughts are always in the mundane world of various things that we need. So majority of our thoughts are running away from the higher and they are focused on the level of lower egocentric living. So because of that, what happens? The branches of our life seem to go downwards. That's the paradox that we are talking about. The branches of our life seem to go downwards because we don't evolve higher. So that is going away from the source of our light. The source of our light is that life principle in us. The sun is the source of our light for all the trees, isn't it? So the source of our light, we are going downwards. And we are going away from the root, which is the highest in us. The highest in us should be our root. So we are going away from the highest and going down. So sometimes, some short times, we are kindled to reach the higher. So we go higher for a while. Thoda we try karega. And then we get caught in the web of our own desires. And we grow fatter. And we start moving downwards. And these are determined by what? Our own gunas, our own qualities. So the buds of potential curiosity in knowing something new is always there in all of us. We want to know something new. These buds are always there in us. And where is it? It is there somewhere between the leaves and the branches, waiting for it to sprout. How does it sprout? Like for example, there is a bud of movie watching, which is there. Somewhere between those leaves and the branches, it is there. That bud of movie watching is there. Slowly, if I remove something from nearby, that bud will grow. And that bud will become my branch of binge watching TV. Netflix, Hotstar, continuously I'll keep on watching. So that is the bud of movie watching. Like for example, there is a bud of singing. It is in my tree. Bud of singing. Slowly, because of that guna, that branch started growing gradually, and then that became a independent branch. Whether it is going up or down is for me to choose. If I keep on getting stuck in it, then it is going down. If I want to evolve and grow higher, it is actually going to the highest potentiality in me. So what is this? Basically, understand that the buds of those potentialities are very, very tender. It is for us to grow good ones out of that and make meaning out of our own life. The song that comes to my mind is फूल आहिस्ता फेंको, फूल बड़े नाजुक होते हैं, वैसे भी तो ये बदकिस्मत नोक पे कांटों के ही सोते हैं, फूल आहिस्ता फेंको. So this is what it is. So we have to be tender with these buds which are there in the potential in us and make them grow to our own progress. So to cut down this web of various desires and our identification with this quality bundle that is there, which is our own prakriti, it is possible with one tool, and that tool is the acts of non-attachment. If you remember what I said right in the beginning, what is attachment? I plus I want. So for example, I want to now talk to you. I want is there. I want to talk to you. I am sharing some thoughts with you. All these things are happening, but there is no I in it. The moment I start putting those I want, please, with this thought that I will get some gratification out of this, I will get some selfish interest out of this, I will get some ego satisfaction out of it. The moment I start bringing I into it, that I plus I want creates attachment. I want is a desire perfectly, because we all want to do something. So this non-attachment comes with dropping of the I from whatever that we are doing. In that quiet state of mind, in that quiet state of alertness, in that quiet state of awareness within us, we will be able to search for that highest principle. So once the mind starts its stops its extrovertedness, mind is traveling outside, seeking something outside. Once that stops and it starts traveling inwards, the journey is a reverse cycle. It starts traveling inwards. Once that search is complete, it never leaves us. Because once you start having that quest within, that experience clings on to us. And it guides us in every action that is it. I gave you that example of Vipassana, that you have to focus on your breath. For example, now I will take a minute of your, or rather I think I will drop that experiment because we will run out of time otherwise. So in that experience, if you're focusing on that place where our breath is dropping, normal breathing, nothing, no exercise in breathing, just normal breathing, you will observe that when your mind is calm, the breathing is very calm and cyclical, and it does touch us and go back very lightly, tenderly. And when your mind is agitated meaning अभी मुझे coffee पीना है, अभी मेरे को 6 बजे मेरा class है. These thoughts are occurring in your mind so fast that you are not in a position to stay balanced. The breath will become very agitated. It will become fast. It will become what can I say? Erratic. It will not be consistent. So the entire exercise in Vipassana is to observe everything as it is. Jaisa hai, vaisa hai. There is nothing different. What it is, that is what it is. Now, once you start that exercise, learn that exercise of observation, your awareness changes. Once awareness changes, when the mind becomes aware of this experience, it remembers the joy of that state. In that state, there is no ego that I have done something, or pride that, oh, I have achieved something, because it is by my very inner state which I recognized by my own self-effort. I conquered the egocentric idea of attachment. So let something come or go. So what? So I am trying something, some success comes, some failure comes, it will come. It is the nature of any effort itself that some result will come. So let the result come. My work will get accomplished because it is not in selfishness that drives it. If I succeed, wonderful, excellent, I am so happy. If I don't, then there must be something wrong in the way I achieved I went into the way of my work. So let me review the way I worked. Both results are equally possible. Now in this thinking mind when I have, then I know that I am connected. I stay connected to that highest principle which is always energizing me. So you may now wonder that I started off this 33 sessions ago that I want to speak on how I own my life. This is what you wanted to know when I started off, that how do I own my life? This was my title itself. So my life, what is my life for you and for me, everybody? My life is the work that I did. It is the relationships that I had. It is the desires that I entertained. Before we started the session, that was the understanding, correct? Now, what is it that I am doing? You may probably think I am going around in circles, talking about some higher reality that I don't know of, correct? How can it be useful to me? Possible. Now, it is important for us to know that conditioning of our mind in the past is the very reason for all our sorrows and miseries. We have conditioned it to behave in a particular way, and that conditioning is the very reason for our sorrows and miseries. So this subject, when we want to understand, it is a subjective study. It cannot be handled objectively like how we are probably dealing with even singing, even something like, writing. They can be handled objectively. It is my personal discipline that will determine my success, and likewise it is for each and every one of us. So in that understanding, if I ask now a question, what is the light that shines on the sun? What is the light that enlightens the moon? What is the light in which we see fire? All phenomenal lights. The phenomenal lights, what do? They illumine the objects that we perceive. Like for example, in a dark room and in an early morning, you want to go and light a diya in your temple. You don't switch on the electric light. You switch on the strike the match and switch on the diya. The diya will illumine your temple. Similarly, the sun illumines whatever we are seeing on the road. The moon illumines whatever we see at night. So they are the phenomenal lights which illumine the objects that we perceive, including our personal world of objects that we experience. But it is the light of His vision in us with which we are able to see that sun, with which we are able to see that moon, with which we are able to see that fire. So unless that light was in us, we could not see that. So it is the light of His vision. And what did we think thus far? Because that vision is what? In some people call it as conscience. मेरे अंतरात्मा में ये जवाब मुझे नहीं मिल रहा है. And the moment you start talking like that, बोलते हैं all bullshit यार, वो मेरा दुश्मन है, ऐसा बकवास बात करता है, all philosophical stuff, it is all boring. That is one way of looking at it. It is His vision that enlivens all of us, within each of us. He is the one who enables us to see that resplendent sun. He is the one who is able to make us see that brilliant moon. or he is the one who's able to make us see the fiery fire that comes before us. But we have always considered that to be our enemy. The song that comes to my mind is Maine dekha, तूने देखा, मैंने देखा, तूने देखा, इसने देखा, उसने देखा, सबने देखा, क्या देखा, एक दुश्मन जो दोस्तों से प्यारा है. We are thinking he is our enemy. He is more friendly to us than all our friends put together. Birth and death is sure for each one of us. When the mind and intellect leaves the body, it is the body that dies. When the mind and intellect leaves the body, it takes away the power of the body to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, to feel, and it also takes away the determination power of the mind, because it takes it away. Silently it will go away at death, just like the wind takes away the fragrance of the flowers. So our ability to perform in the world is carried invisibly by us from place to place where we work. Our ability to do anything, singing, painting, writing, talking, teaching, training, working, our ability to perform, our ability is carried by us invisibly. We don't know. We carry that invisibly from place to place wherever we go to work. Similarly, when we go from one body to another also, we carry that invisibly without our knowledge. But let us not confuse that with memory, because if it was memory, then we are done. मरने के बाद में पिछले जन्म में क्या हुआ ये सोचना तो बाप रे बाप, ये जन्म में क्या आ रहा है वो भी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. So what is the experience of the newborn baby? First experience. That is what energizes the newborn to understand these functions and recognize the mind in what it is supposed to do with these faculties. For example, the child is born. For the first, if you remember, I gave this example. First 2 or 3 seconds, no response. 2-3 seconds, suddenly it is familiar with it is confronted by an unfamiliar surrounding. It cries, loudly it cries, and there is some pain also, it cries. So crying after birth, it realizes, so the mind recognizes the ability to cry, to express. It is fed, mother's milk is fed, so the child knows what is the meaning of suckling a mother. Then it gets to know what is the taste of food which comes to us, and knowing that it is food which will nourish me. It knows security at being touched and wrapped by the midwife. It learns the art of security, and it also learns the art of when the mother is around and not around. Just by sensing, it learns that art. So this is how the mind develops into an independent person. The mind catches these at birth. At death, it is all going away. The mind catches these at birth, and from then onwards it starts developing its own imprints. Where did it come from? It was gathered in the past with which it traveled. What were the imprints? Whatever it was, because that is how you say, you talk about some great evolved people who are great from their childhood. Some imprints they carried, and then you start developing on that. Now, because of our ignorance, we don't remember these imprints. And because we don't have a past memory, we don't remember these imprints. But invisibly, they govern the very character with which we start our life. Then with what we gather in this life, we go on to establish a new personality. And with those imprints or changes to those imprints through our new experiences, only when we learn to drop this triple combination, attachment to whatever we gathered, and because of that attachment, fear of losing what we gathered, and in the imminent fear of what we are likely to lose, anger at its probable loss, this triple combination, if we are in a position to drop, we can climb the ladder of our own limitation and grow higher and near to the highest principle which is working with us. When is he not with us? The highest principle. If he is not with us, we don't exist. He is always with us. That is what we need to remember. So with this, I will now play 11 to 20 and we will take it forward from there.
यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन्यवस्थितम् यतन्तोऽप्यकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्यचेतसः यदादित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भासयतेऽखिलम् यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकम् गामाविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्यहमोजसा पुष्णामि चौषधीः सर्वाः सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहमाश्रितः प्राणापानसमायुक्तः पचाम्यन्नं चतुर्विधम् सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम् द्वाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरश्चाक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थोऽक्षर उच्यते उत्तमः पुरुषस्त्वन्यः परमात्मेत्युदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयमाविश्य बिभर्त्यव्यय ईश्वरः यस्माक्षरमतीतोऽहमक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च प्रथितः पुरुषोत्तमः यो मामेवमसम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमम् स सर्वविद् भजति मां सर्वभावेन भारत इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रमिदमुक्तं मया नघ एतद्बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे पुरुषोत्तमयोगो नाम पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः।
Just because we read something, just because we heard something, just because we understood something, can we assume that we have realized? You must have read Bhagavad Gita many times, you must have read a translation, you must have read some commentary, so many things you must have read. We must have heard something. For example, even now what I'm doing, you're hearing from me, I have heard something from people. Now, we understood. We understood whatever was being read or whatever was being told, we understood. Can we then say that because we have understood, we have become realized? No. Because these are only intellectual pursuits. We are only satisfying or feeding our intellect. Unless in firm belief that there is this higher self, this higher principle, this divine energy, this life principle, this consciousness, this God in us, which is energizing everything that we are thinking, we are feeling, or we are acting. Unless we are firm in that belief, in our understanding, and unless we act in sincerity with that knowledge and humility, and what do we need to do? Build the right values of life. Whatever we have learnt, we need to build them as a part of our personality, which means what? Again, changing our imprints. We cannot attain that state of perfection. The Uttama Purusha that we are talking about, Purusha Uttama, Uttama Purusha that we want to be, we cannot attain that state unless this becomes a part of our DNA, as we talk about. So we have to work diligently in ourselves, with ourselves, for ourselves. So when we are doing that, it is possible that always it may not be hunky-dory, always it may not be successful, always it may not be smooth. There will be frustrating moments, because in any endeavor that we do, human endeavor, it is possible that there will be stumbling blocks, as we can put it. But we must not get frustrated. We must not get annoyed with ourselves. We must not get disenchanted with ourselves. In a smiling disposition, jaisa hai, vaisa hai. At this moment, if my mind is disturbed, accept that it is disturbed. Accept. And once you accept, you will be able to correct it. The more you go into a denial mode, saying that no, mind is not disturbed, and actually you are disturbed, you will not be able to conquer the mind, because the mind is working as your enemy at that moment. So accept the fact that my mind is disturbed at the moment, and the moment you accept that, it changes your perception, and it sort of, in a smiling disposition, you will be able to start working on yourself, with yourself, for yourself. Because it is the power of the divine self which energizes our field of action for us. When we start any work, whatever new work that we start, it is that divine self in us, that consciousness in us, which is energizing our field of action also for us. He gets the field ready for us. He is the one who is shining his light to dispel our ignorance and our sorrow and our misery. Remember this always. Once we remember this, there is only those sad days, those dejected days, those disenchanted days, they are all gone. What days will come? The experiences that will come will all be experiences of happiness, bliss, joy. That is how we will grow. The song that comes to my mind is दुख भरे दिन बीते रे भैया अब सुख आयो रे रंग जीवन में नया लायो रे ओ दुख भरे दिन बीते रे भैया. So we understand this, that by our own effort we'll change our situation of misery today to a situation of happiness and bliss for ourselves. So we consume food, all of us, we eat something or the other. We don't eat only with our mouth. We eat in our mind also, the emotions that come to us. We eat in our intellect also, with the thoughts that we start analyzing. So what is the power that receives the food that we consume? Whether it is food that we goes orally or through our mind or our intellect, what is the power that receives the food that we consume? It is received by the power of life within us. It is received by the same power. The organs of our body, functional organs, like the digestive system that processes the physical food, the mind and intellect, that is the field for our thoughts and emotions, or the respiratory and the excretory organs that govern our life, that govern our life, respiratory organs, or discharge functions in our body. All of these are also empowered by this life principle only. Without the life principle, none of them can also function. When all these are withdrawn from us, all these functions also cease. So what we understand, that whatever we offer to our own apparatus, our mind, our intellect, our body, whatever we offer as food to that, and how that food is processed in our system, and how that is discharged in the form of our actions, how it is discharged in the form of the life that we create outside of us, is all governed by that ultimate principle, and ultimate principle alone. That is the Supreme Purusha. That is the Uttama Purushan. That is Purushottama, and that is ultimate. When that is withdrawn, that power is withdrawn from all of these, our function cease. We are no longer there. So the Supreme Purusha, Purusha Uttama, is situated where? You want to know where it is, no? So we know that mind, intellect, we always seem to confuse the mind, intellect. Even many times I also say from our mind, by habit pattern it goes like this. It is not here. What is here is our brain. We confuse that with our mind and intellect. The mind and intellect, and most importantly the spiritual heart in all of us. The spiritual heart in all of us is here in our solar plexus. It is the location from, it's not a physical organ. But we say in our field of study, our field of knowledge, that is where it is situated. It is the very place from where all our knowledge also originates. It is the very place where our memory or lack of memory also starts from. It is the very place where the filtration of that knowledge also occurs. So it is the very place, the source of our divine principle in all of us. Without him enlivening that, there is no memory, there is no knowledge. Knowledge meaning there is no wisdom from whatever we have learnt. So in the lack of that wisdom in us, we develop forgetfulness, because in my ignorance I don't recall my wisdom and I act stupidly. This is what happens to all of us. So it is also said in the same chapter, it is also said that there are two Purushas. So I try to understand what this is. The two Purushas are the changing phenomenon called the world of matter. This world, if you remember the analogy of the tree that I gave, the changing Ashwatha, that which is not permanent, the world of matter, and the imperishable spirit in that, which is enlivening us and which is enlivening our world also. So if you look at that changeless principle, it is like that anvil. If you anvil meaning the word in Sanskrit is kutastha. Anvil is that, if you go to a mochi, he will put that leather piece on that and then he will start hammering. The anvil is not moving. Like that, if you go to a goldsmith, in the goldsmith will have a small chota anvil, and in that he will be hitting with a hammer, he will be hitting the ornaments to bring them to the shape that he wants. So the changeless is like that anvil of the goldsmith on which the world of ornaments are created. So you take a gold piece, put it on the anvil, do whatever creative work you want to do on that, and on that a new creation called an ornament is made. So without either, creation cannot happen. Without the changeless, the anvil, and the changing, which is the gold which became the ornament, without both of them and the effort of my effort to create that ornament, no creation can happen. This is exactly how our life is also. The Purushottama that we all seek is the highest principle, which is enshrined in this world of objects, the phenomenal world that we experience. Your world, my world, everybody's world. So, it is the highest principle that is enshrined in the world of objects. And it is also the anvil on which that new creation occurs. It is both. Without Purushottama's light of life, none of the emotions, none of the thoughts, none of the actions of ours, and they are all determined by what? By our own past imprints. So our past imprints is what is determining our actions. So without his light on our emotions, on our thoughts, on our actions, determined by our own imprints, nothing can find results. So the greatest act of surrender that we can do is to remain in the awareness of this Purushottama. So we understand that it is this which is enlivening everything that I am doing. So through all our pursuits in life, whatever we are doing in life, because without him, nothing remains. If you remove him from the field of action, from the field itself, if you remove him, nothing remains. So we have to be like that bamboo reed. That bamboo reed is chota sa patla sa bamboo which is there, no? That reed which goes on to become the flute. And that flute is the one which creates the music of the Lord that we all enjoy. So we have to learn to become like that bamboo reed, which can become a flute, and that flute can be used by somebody to create a music who the Lord of my heart will enjoy. So I end with a Tamil song. Those of you who don't know Tamil, you may still be able to understand if you may not be, because Tamil is a little different language, but again, that is what comes to my mind. புல்லாங்குழல் கொடுத்த மூங்கில்களே அந்த புருஷோத்தமன் புகழ் பாடுங்களே. So the reed that gave the flute, please sing the glory of that Purushottama, of that highest principle which is enlivening this entire world through music, through action, through everything that we all do. So that is the last thought with which I want to conclude. Any questions, any points that any of you want to share, most welcome. And of course, as always, you can share it on WhatsApp also. Next week, I will not take up anything new, like how I did after chapter 8, and I said that after 15 I will invite your queries, I will invite some points from you, I will invite some suggestions from you. Whatever you feel are your thoughts, share them with me on WhatsApp. I will put all of them together. The common things I will put them into one bucket. Those which are uncommon I will deal with them separately. Namrata ji, your question was there on verse 24 and 25 of 14. I wanted to take that in the beginning, but since you hadn't logged in at that time, I sort of postponed it. So I will take that up again when we deal with it next week. So please, I welcome all of you to send in your questions, queries, suggestions, whatever comes to your mind. Sure. Please share them and I will use all of them for my next session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om. Good. Wish you all a nice weekend. Bye bye.